Told you I'll be back. Well, I'm back if you watched the previous video, but I'm back. Here we go. More Marvel talk. Going on my YouTube subscribers, Marvel fans, I hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend because, like I said, Kraven the Hunter is officially out in theaters, the final movie in these Sony Spider-Man movies, but it's just been a downward spiral, hasn't it? From 2018's Venom to now 2024's Kraven the Hunter, we've had all these 6 Spider-Man spin-off movies with no Spider-Man in them. That's been like the biggest con in this whole thing. The whole time I'm just kind of just like, why can't they put Spider-Man in these movies? You own the character. I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the deal with Disney and Marvel, so it's like, you can't make another Spider-Man without him conflicted with the MCU and shit. I don't know. After No Way Home, everyone loves Andrew Garfield. You could have just put all these characters in his movie, and we could have got Andrew Garfield back as the Spider-Man. That would have worked. No, we just have a spiderless Spider-Man spin-off universe movie that just doesn't want to acknowledge Spider-Man exists at all. So why should we even care about these movies, right? At the end of the day, let's be honest, we all kind of in the back of our minds want to think that, okay, these movies are going to lead eventually to Spider-Man squaring off against these characters. But now that it's been canceled, that's never going to happen. Maybe in the multiverse. Maybe. How about while you're really here, let's rank all 6 of these Sony Spider-Man spin-off movies from the best to the worst, starting with number 6. Here we go. Number 6, easily, Kraven the Hunter. Easily. Movie I just got back from seeing, and I'm just like, hands down, this was the worst one. Yes, worse than Morbius, worse than Madam Web. It makes me think back. I'm just like, wait a minute, Madam Web, that did come out this year, didn't it? Didn't it? It was I barely remember that movie, and I'm just like, Kraven the Hunter, at least Madam Web had some things going with it to an extent that I remember somewhat. This movie, I'm not gonna remember nothing about it. Like Tomorrow, it was that generic, that forgettable. Like I said, the only thing going on with it is Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's giving his best, but it just ain't enough. Just generic crap. So Kraven the Hunter is definitely number 6. Here's number 5.
We are Venom.
Number 5 for me, this was like a back and forth. Like, I don't know which one's like which one. Just because each movie, all the movies are bad. Don't get me wrong. Number one's just horrible. So I'm like, okay, who is like the worst of the pair? And I think I'm going to give it to Madam Web. I think I'll give it to her. Because I feel like Madam Web, I like I said, barely remember the movie at all. But I definitely remember this whole, like, girl power, like, I feel like the story in Madam Web, what I remember going to the movie, I was like, okay, if I treat this as had nothing to do with Spider-Man at all, nothing to do with Marvel. It's his own movie about this girl who can see the future, and now she tries to send other girls to prevent it, sort of like a reverse Final Destination. There's some fun with that. That could be different. That's the mindset I went to it, and that's the mindset I'm holding with it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it still wasn't good. I remember the movie ending on this like kind of Powerpuff Girls, Charlie's Angel girl power moment. I was just like I said in Kraven, a movie that thinks it's getting a sequel, and it's okay. Now that's number 5. What's number 4? Might shock. No, it ain't gonna shock you. Here we go.
We are Venom.
Number 4 for me is easily going to be Venom: The Last Dance. That came out 2 months ago. That movie that was just like Venom's final entry, and he's barely in the movie. And it's a shame too, because like I said, Venom started off with some very good promise, but then it's like these Venom movies just kept going down and down and down. And there was so much like build up for The Last Dance, being like, okay, we're gonna introduce this new character, it's gonna be in the multiverse, it's gonna be crazy as shit with Spider-Man, it's gonna be nuts. And it just like didn't amount to nothing. The post-credit scene didn't amount to nothing. Venom was hardly in the movie at all. And Venom, when he did suit up, was making some questionable, stupid choices that's like, well, why'd you do that? Forgettable character you don't really care about. And the fact that when the movie was over and you think, oh, Venom's gonna give his life and shit, be triumphant, and that's gonna like be a nice cherry on the movie reneges and just be like, oh, Venom's not really dead. He's not really dead. He's not dead. The whole movie about him being like this sacrifice and this like all the stakes and shit are just shit. That's why it's number 4. That's it.
We are Venom.
Number 3 for me, might surprise you, but come on, let's be honest. I think I'm gonna say Morbius. Hear me out. The reason why I say Morbius is the fact that at least Morbius had this kind of novelty going with it, because we knew this movie was going to be bad, but the meme culture that Morbius did is enough for me to just remember it enough like that. Yeah, don't get me wrong, the movie's not great at all. Jared Leto, it seems like these Sony movies that are not Venom trying to do this thing where it's like, okay, a character gets bit by radioactive or supernatural something and they become a super anti-hero and shit, and they face off against just other B-list, C-list Marvel villains and shit you don't give you two shits about. And then end the movie's off with like this potential sequel that's never gonna happen. Never. That's Morbius, but like I said, at least Morbius, again, what gives it the number 3 slot is the memes that came with it. It's the only movie that was so bad because of like the, you know, the Morbid Time memes and shit, it got a re-release. None of these other movies did that, so that's merits enough. Like I said, the movies are not great. I'm not saying Morbius is great. I'm just saying it's number 3 on the what I think are the 3 best movies in this shit that is Sony. So let's go with number 2.
We are Venom.
Number 2 for me is going to be Venom Let There Be Carnage. Here's why. Venom Let There Be Carnage, like I said, there was so much hype with the end of the last movie. It was like, okay, you know, Cletus Cassidy getting on the scene and shit. And I think the biggest thing going against the movie was it was not ready at all. You have Carnage, the most violent character in Marvel, one of the most violent characters in Marvel, and you nerf him by making his movie PG-13 just to get asses to seats. Why? We live in a world where we had 2 at the time, 2 Deadpool movies that were rated R, and those movies crushed it. Telling me you could not do a Carnage movie and do Carnage justice. This could have been like, this could have been insane, but no, you're like, we want to get those ticket prices, so make it PG-13. I just remember that Carnage and Venom, when they were going at it, it was just more CGI, blah, mess or whatever. But again, Carnage himself, you could have like this, a maximum Carnage shit. That could have been awesome. It'd been great. At least it's better than Morbius, I'll say that much. But again, like I said, Carnage was like, this was like, what, the second movie in this universe? They were like, okay, first Venom wasn't bad. Carnage, we're on board. All Carnage, and we're like, well, there's that. Of course, only one movie left. It's the first Venom, 2018. I was really voting for this movie because I remember when it was about to come out and the trailer coming out, we're just like, yeah, that's Venom? That's the bitch you got? That's Venom? We're just like, how can you do a Venom movie without Spider-Man? And it's like, I remember if he had like kind of divided, I was on the side that was like, okay, Venom wasn't terrible. It was a nice, honest try. You know, we got, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, and I felt like them two, when they was going for the buddy comedy route with Venom, it kind of worked in its own weird, morbid way. But again, it's one of those things that's like, okay, it started out good. Can it get better? It did not. But I still hold the first Venom movie as kind of being this like weird, like, I don't know, little like weird pocket thing where it's like, Sony had humble beginnings with Venom, and it's like, you know what? When it was starting out, this universe, I was on board. I was like, okay, let's see what could happen. And now 7 years later, here we are. The universe is over, and these movies are just terrible. But that first Venom movie will always be like, well, there's Venom. But we can always just end this whole thing off with. It'll always be Venom. That's my official ranking of all 6 Sony Spider-Man movies. What do you think? What's your favorite? What's your least favorites? Or do you hate all of them? Just let me know. The Kraven the Hunter is in theaters now. You can check it out. What do you think about it? What do you think of all these movies? Type below. Let me know. Talk about it. Have you guys a safe and warm weekend because it's cold. So stay warm. And as always, subscribe. Until next time.